Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for coming back. As always, huge massive thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it. So I'm just coming back with the last little play with the Teddy Time Crafty Stash Pad, which is the free gift in the issue number 83 of Crafting with Hunkydory magazine. What I'm going to do is just pop this piece out. My pad is already falling to pieces because I did take that piece out last time. But let's just pop that one out. So those are the toppers we're going to be playing with, and I need also the little paw print insert paper. Is that the last one I've got of that? I'm going to be very sad if it is. Yes, it is. Okay. The side as well. Right. Okay. So that's what we're going to be playing with today. So the first card, I thought I would do a 5x5 twisted easel. So let's grab a piece of card and I'm going to cut this down to 5x10. And then 10. And you could do this out of your adorable scoreable if you didn't want a white, or if you wanted to change to the white base, it would be quite cool. So let's grab my trimmer, and this is 300 GSM white card. So I'm going to take my scoreboard, sorry, and I'm going to score at 5 inches. So we're just going to give that centre point there, and then I want my card to be going across there. So, and I'm just going to line up the top of my last score line there and the point of my card there, and just score that down the diagonal, and then that's going to come across. Obviously it needs burnishing down, and that's going to be my card shape. Now if you cut it and you score it and you realise that your fold is going the other way, as long as you've not used coloured cardstock, you can always just turn it over the other way. So don't think you've completely ruined it if that's what happens to you. But let's just give these a burnish down. And these sort of twisted easels are really great card shapes for when you've got circles like this one where you've got a number of borders around it. So Hunkydory do these quite often where you've got 2 or 3 sort of borders round. And this sort of type of card can look really cool with it. Okay, so let's start with a piece of 6x6 Miri, and I'm going to cut this down to 2 notches under the 5 and 2 notches under the 5, and that's going to go on my base here. So we need to decorate this because this is going to be the scene part, you know, people will see that part of the card. And then I'm going to take another piece of gold Miri. If I had a bit here, I have got some bits but none that were big enough. And I'm going to take this one to 4 3/4. And all these little pieces that I'm cutting off are great for sort of stepper cards, that sort of thing. And doing that on the square. So we've got 4 3/4 square. And then what I'm going to do is just cut that down the diagonal. Obviously we'll save that piece when we make a card the same size. And then you'll see that's fits onto there quite nicely. For the base, I'm using that insert paper I took off, and for this piece here I'm going to use some of this blue shimmer card. Now this was given to me as part of the DT team, and I don't feel guilty about using it because I am placing an order next week and I will be ordering a pack. Well, probably going to be the end of this week actually because of the offer. And I'm just cutting this to 4 1/2 square, and then popping that down. And then that should fit quite nicely onto there, and it does. So that piece and that piece needs to go back in the pack that I have for that, so we will be using that again. And then to cut that insert paper, I'm just going to use my guillotine, and this is going to be my normal 4 3/4 squares. And that should fit quite nicely onto there, and it does. These pieces obviously we will save. We could use them as borders. I know they are paler because they're designed to sort of just be decorative, but you can still use them as a decorative paper, which is fantastic. So let's start by using my Hunkydory permanent dot tape pen on those corners, and I'm going to use my Colour All Purpose glue on there, and then we're just going to pop this piece on, maneuver it into position, just give that a nice press down. Now if you wanted to, you could emboss this piece. It does emboss lovely, and it's a shame that this doesn't show its beauty on the screen, because it is subtle, but there's just that beautiful shimmer with it, and it just catches the light lovely. It's been a real pleasure to work with that one, and I'm quite, I don't think I would have bought it if I hadn't been given some to play with, because it's only sometimes when you see these things in real life that you realise quite how beautiful they are. Okay, so let's give that a minute just to go off the little bit of glue, and we'll pop this piece in. And down. And this one there's not a directional print on it, it's just paw prints going every which way. If you have used up your insert paper, what you could do is take some either Duo Design paper pad, Mactastic paper pad, and if you've got a paw print embossing folder, or if you manage to get hold of the Hunkydory mask with the paw prints on, and you could pop that through and emboss that, and you'd get that same sort of look. It would be quite cool. Okay, so now let's pop this piece on, and again, should have refilled my glue, and pop that in. And on, just make sure that's nice and even, and then you can see that's how our base card is looking so far. Okay, so I'm going to take my little golfer dude, golfer bear, and I think I might, should we go with, we'll go with Just For You, just because we've got the sort of blue checks, and that matches that little topper there. Kind of feel like this Good Sport one probably is more football-y, or it could be the cycling one because it has got the green on, but we'll save that one for another card. So let's pop these out. Just pop that down a second. And I'm using all of these frames today, so I do want to kind of pop them out quite carefully. And if I grab my scissors, I did see a little pip. There's another one there. Is there any on that one? Not so much, not so much. That's good. Okay. So what I think is fun with these, so there's a couple of different ways you can lay these out. Okay, so you can just lay it out as you normally would, either putting that one in, missing it out, and then popping our little bear on. But what I think is quite fun is to add all of these in and then have that in the bottom corner there, so you've got that kind of circles radiating out. And also by doing it this way, I don't really have to make sure that I stick down these frames so that the scallops line up, if you see what I mean. So what I'm going to do is take the smallest one first of all. I'm going to pop a little bit of tacky glue to around about there, and you don't want any glue to come over this side because you really want, let's just go up a little bit, you really want there to be basically, if you put glue underneath here, what will happen is that will then stick to it, okay, and then the card is not going to open up like this easel. So that's why you just need to be a little bit careful with your glues. And then this one, I'm going to come in again. I'm just going to come with a little bit of glue along here, flat again, and then we're going to pop this over the top of there. What I want to do is just take that off just a second. Grab a little bit of my Eco toilet roll. It's brown. I saw this thing on Facebook about how you could, you know, get these toilet rolls that they're eco-friendly. They're made of bamboo, and it kind of looked like you got 96 for, I think it was like 20 odd quid, 25 quid with free delivery. So I ordered them because I thought that's a good deal. It's about what we pay now, pretty much. And when we got them, it really wasn't that good a deal. So there was only 24 for a start, and it doesn't flush very well. Hence why it will now be in my craft room, because it's alright for blowing your nose on. It's not too rough, although it looks really cheap. But it, like I said, it just doesn't flush very well, so it has to go in the bin. So I've told my sister that if I ever say I'm going to buy anything like that from Facebook again, she's to remind me of this, because it always seems like a good deal and then you sort of, it's not, it's just rubbish stuff. Hey ho, such is life. So I'm just going to put a 1mm pad on the frames because we've got two there, so they are lifted up. And then I've popped some 2mm ones on there. I'm going to pop a little bit of tacky glue just to make sure I get this how I want it to go. Let's not have him upside down. And then I'm going to bring him to the edge of this frame again. So this is how our card, difficult to show, yeah, so that's how it's going to look. So we've got our little circles radiating out. Now we have our little piece here, so we will grab another 2mm foam pad, pop that one there. I'm not even going to put any tacky glue on, I'm just going to pop that onto the bottom there. Now it does need a stopper. I have to pick the green one out to go with the green on here, that's why I chose it. And this is from the bigger book of, Essential Bigger Book of Birthday Sentiments that I bought last year. So I kind of thought that was quite cool. Again, I'm going to go with 2mm because you do want a nice little bit of sort of heft to it to stop that coming forward. So that's there. And down this one I will just pop a little bit of glue on, just in case we want it to slide. I think we'll go around about there, nice and high. So you can still fold it flat, although there is a bit of a chunk to it. Oops, there we go, a bit of a chunk to it. But it's just going to assemble super quick like so. And then I think we need some gems. Let's have a little look which ones I have got to hand. Ooh, there's royal blue. Or there is baby blue. So this is going to crinkle. Or we could go with our mermaid ones. We'll go with the mermaid ones, I think, because I've only got a few of those darker ones left. I was looking for these on Temu the other day. I know I said I wasn't going to buy any more, but I was looking and I couldn't find them, which was a bit sad. So let's go 1, 2 on there. I'm going to put one there. We'll put one up here. And let's grab you, come here. Pop you down there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that will do. Put it in there, keep them safe. And that is our finished little 5x5 twisted easel. Super quick, quite simple really once you get the hang of him. I think once you've learned to do that crease a couple of times, it does become a lot easier. And also I think now that I go down by 1/4 of an inch instead of 2 notches, the layering on this triangle part, it seems to be a lot easier as well. But that is card number 1, and I'm just going to get set up for card number 2. Okay, so for the second card, I've got a piece of 6x12 cardstock, and I'm going to start by bringing in my scoreboard. And I'm going to score, it's been a while since I made this card. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch, at 2.5, at 4.5, and I believe I have to do 6.5 as well. Like I said, it's been a while. Let me just double check. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So if you haven't been watching, if you've only been watching my channel in the last year, you probably won't have seen me make one of these before. But I did go for a phase where they were quite my favourite thing. And there are ways to take this further, and I'll talk about that once I've made it up. Okay, so we've scored at 1/2 inch, 2.5, 4.5 and 6.5. And when it comes together, it will look like so. So let's grab some red liner tape, find the end. Just going to pop that onto there. Scissors. I just have to remember let's do it. So if I take this off, pop some tacky glue along just for some extra protection. And I've got 2 squares there, and if I pop it straight down, then that will be a very square fold. Okay, so that is the actual card. Stands perfectly like so. You can, the other thing, I was going to wait until it's finished, but I'll tell you about it now. What you can do, if you don't want this to be a card that will fold into a, well, it will go by in a, I will put it in a 6x6 envelope, so it's about 5.5 by 6. We may come over the top a little bit with our topper. If you don't want to put it in an envelope, what you could do is turn this into a gift box. So you would just make a sort of insert that is 2 by 2 by 2 or just under, and then it would just slide in, and then you could have some chocolates in there, you know, a little toy, whatever you want to put in. That is our card. Another great thing about this card is that I will be able to use some of these odds and ends up. So let's start. I'm decorating this side, and this side. And I'm also going to pop something in there as well because it will be seen. Obviously if you were doing an insert you wouldn't need to do that. So I'm just going to cut this to 2 notches under the 6, and we want to be 2 notches under the 2, and that's going to be that piece there. And I'm going to repeat that, 2 notches under the 6 by 2 notches under the 2. That one will go onto that there. Now I do need 1 more of those. Let me just cut this down to 2 notches under the 6 and just check that measurement there, which is in inches. I think it's about 3.5. Yeah, 3.5 by 6. So if I cut this to 2 notches under 3.5, that will fit onto there rather nicely. That's going to be too small. How have I got my little bit now? So I was having a clear out yesterday and I was sorting these bits of cardstock. What's that? That might be perfect. So 2 notches under the 2. It looked like that was pretty much there. And then 2 notches under the 6, and this is the one that's going to go inside to hide those workings and just be a little bit of prettiness. Okay, so to go on these 2 pieces here, what I've done is I've taken a piece of green Adorable Scorable. It is from the new Adorable Scorable, and I think it's called Green Tea. I've already cut it to a 5 3/4 square. And I'm just going to take this to 1 3/4. Oh, and embossed it with a star embossing folder, which is the Hunkydory one. So I'm going to do that again. So 1 3/4. So those are those 2 pieces for there. And I think I'll even get that piece for the inside as well. And that will go in there. And then for the top, I'm going to use paper from the pad, which is this green check, which matches in with the design on here. So let's get rid of that one and grab our little trimmer. And if I cut this to 5 3/4, and then it was 3.5, so this needs to go to 3 1/4. And then that should fit quite nicely onto there, and it does. That can go back in the pad. Okay, so the other thing I want to do, just to make this a little bit more friendly, is to grab my corner rounder. I just think these edges look nice when they are rounded. But then what I have to do is remember to do the layers as well before I glue them. Okay, so that's onto there. So now we can just do some simple assembling. So let's glue all these bits first and then we can pop them into place. So these are quite nice and chunky, so don't really need to worry about using my tape runner on these, although I will on the paper of course. So just pop those on, just make sure those are nice and even. And down. And I just like these stars. There's 2 embossing folders that I really love, and I just think are really universally great, and that's the stars and the dots. I've got the diagonals and I've got the zigzags, but the thing with that is they don't, it kind of finishes, so it's harder to, let me show you what I mean. So on these edges there's quite a hard edge, so if I'm trying to match it up I find it a lot harder, whereas with the stars and the dots they're super easy to extend, or you know, if you've got a bigger piece. So my heart is with those two. I do like the one that's come with this magazine, which is that sort of tattered fabric one, and I also really like the one from not the previous magazine, it was the magazine before, which was the something dots it was called. That one is really easy to line up, although it looks like it wouldn't be. It is super easy. Okay, so let's put you in your place. So this one I'm going to pop inside, and that will hide that join, and if anyone just happens to catch it on the side, it just looks super finished. So we're just going to pop that in, line that up. Those glues make it easy to just sort of move it along to where you're happy with it. Give that a good press down, and then keep working through all of these. I don't know what this card style is sort of called. It's a pop-up of some kind. Maybe a freestanding pop-up card? I don't know. You could put it onto a card back if you really wanted somewhere to write, because currently the only place to write would be on the back of the card, but you could easily put an insert on there. I mean, you could, if you weren't using it as a gift box, you could put a tag inside of these bits in there, so that they would pull out and you'd write on there. You could do that. Alright, let's make sure you two stay where you are supposed to. Looks like you're behaving yourself. And I'm just going to keep adding our glues on. And popping this in. And again, just lining all of those up, making sure that those are nice and secure. Okay, so let's put the lid on that one, and then we can decide on some decoration. So we've got our cyclist, and I actually really do want this to go in a 6x6 if I can, so I am going to pop him like so. I think I might bring in, sorry, it's going to rustle, a little boinger as well. That way he's going to boing about on there. Let's have a quick look. I didn't look at sentiments for this one, so let's bring out that bigger book, because we've got two decent spaces there. I'm going to have You're My Number One somewhere on there. Now we do want some greens or yellows. I don't know if there is any yellow in here. Let's have a little look. Green. Happy birthday from all of us. I like that one. Let's pop that out. That would go perfectly along there. Let's just double check. I could have a Cheers to Another Year. Kind of feels a bit more grown up, that one. There's a yellow or cream. Especially for you, wishing you a day as wonderful as you are. I think we're probably going to end up going with that green. Have a wild birthday. Oh, it's silver though, they're no good. That's silver as well. No, we'll go with that. Dark green. So let's put some, I'm going to go 2mm on this one, I think. Although if you were worrying about how you would get this in an envelope, then maybe you might not want to go as high. I think if you've got a decent sized envelope, even though this is going to fold down, it's not too chunky, you know, so I think it will be fine. So let's grab, I'm going to actually use my purple glue stick, and I have been using this more for back of foam pads because it is super easy to pop it on the back as long as you make sure you don't get it anywhere else. But it's easy to sort of nudge them. It's a really nice way of putting these on and having them be able to be moved. And there is a deal, I mean, if you really love it, there is a deal at the moment where it's buy 12 and get 12 free, a ridiculous amount. Take your month or something just to get through it all, I think. Okay, so that looks pretty straight to me. Okay, now we want our little boinger. So let's put that on the back. So we're going to have our little cycling bear boinging about on his bike. Or they say Dan, don't they? They say it's Dan on his bike. So he does look like he's going downwards, so I am going to put him on a little bit of an angle. There he is, having his little ride. I think we'll put that up in that corner with a little 2mm foam pad. Again, I'm just going to pop that on. I'm not even going to use anything to back up. I do feel like, let's just give it a good press down. It should stand, they usually do. There we go, you just might have to manipulate them a little bit. There we go. I think we'd just go with some gems. You could come in with a border across there, but because I've done that embossing, I kind of feel like that's enough. So let's grab some green gems, or we could go gold. No, I think I'm going to go green. Okay, let's pop this down a second. And I think I'm going to go with the dark green because we've got that dark green border sentiment. So let's pop 3 going up this way. Over just a little bit, there we go. And then I'm going to have 2 going down this way. I'm going to have 2 small ones, or medium ones rather, in these corners. And then I'm going to take a big one, 2 medium ones. Obviously, like I always say, you know, if it is a very young child and they're going to eat these, maybe choke on them, then best to not bother with them, or use something flat as a decoration. Maybe die cut a small circle and have that as a sort of decoration rather than a gem. That is going to be our second card. So put that way up. So you have got our little bit of our, looks like he's going over the bumps, doesn't he? Bless him. But that is card number 2. Stand, come on now, behave, there we go. Card number two, just going to pop in with card number 1. So that's there. So this is the video little series that I've done with that craft pad finished for me now. I'm going to be moving on to something else. Probably, if I'm honest with you, is going to be the butterflies that are launching today, tomorrow on Hunkydory. What are they called? They are called butterflies, something butterflies. I should know. But anyway, it's not beautiful butterflies, but it's something like that. But you'll know because you're all Hunkydory people, so you know what I mean. The butterfly one that's just released, so we'll be playing with all 4 of those sets next. And then after that, I'm going to move on to that beautiful pink foiled blushing. Again, I've forgotten the name. Blushing something. Blushing Blossoms, maybe? But we'll be doing that after that. And then after that, I think it's probably maybe going to be around about the time for another free gift. Maybe. I don't know. But we'll see how we get on. But that's the plan anyway, moving forward. So that's all these done. Hopefully you've enjoyed these cards. I have seen quite a few people have been posting their makes with this. So I think it has gone down really well. And I think a lot of people have really enjoyed this stash pad. It's great to be able to sort of bring in cardstocks as well with it. You know, you don't have to just use what's in the pad. Although you do get quite a lot on there, and especially if you like your smaller cards, there's a lot of smaller toppers in there, which I personally do love. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening to me waffle on, and until next time, happy crafting. Bye.